All right, welcome to a special NFL Combine preview episode of Talking Ball with Pat Leonard on YouTube, PL on NFL, and on the Believe Network. And we're going to have Allen Robinson II, free agent, current NFL wide receiver, and Benny Fowler, Super Bowl 50 champion, two wideouts and elite athletes who grew up together in the Detroit area, did the NFL Combine together, traveled to Indianapolis together in 2014, experienced all that we're going to talk about throughout this week in Indianapolis. Really excited to talk to them, hear some stories about their experience, their shared experience, and also about Allen's free agency, and talk a little more NFL before we head to Indy to bring you the latest news, information, analysis, gossip, and rumors from the hallways, bars, and restaurants of Indianapolis. We are brought to you, of course, here by MyBookie, Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, Estate 98 Coffee, and Sal Loretta for Men. MyBookie rolled out the red carpet for sports bettors in the football season. They're still doing it now in the spring. Get ready for March Madness. You got to open an account at MyBookie now. I crushed it this season. I hope you tailed my picks during the NFL year. Listen, sometimes maybe it's not going to happen in 2025, but all I know is I was almost 55% win clip against the spread, picking every game this season, and cleaned up in the playoffs, got both championship games right. Also hitting the Super Bowl big, Eagles money line, the over, Saquon Barkley 25 carries, Devontae Smith anytime touchdown. We made you money this football season all the way through the big game. And if you want to make more money, go download at mybookie.ag, open an account, and you're going to use that promo code PATSPICKS and get a 50% match on your first deposit all the way up to $2,000. So you can match that $2,000 with an extra $1,000 in your pocket from MyBookie to spend there. MyBookie, bet smarter, win bigger, only at MyBookie. Also, Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink right here over my shoulder. A natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally feel a post-workout like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today. Use that code on your screen, TalkingBall25, or use the QR code, scan that, and you'll get 25% off your first order on the subscribe and save option. This product was an absolute smash hit at the Super Bowl in New Orleans on Radio Row. Go get it today. Start feeling the difference at boomchaga.com. Also brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, estate98.com/talkingball for an 80% off banger exclusive offer there at estate98.com/talkingball. It's a natural specialty coffee concentrate. Makes a quick cup of coffee, 10 seconds, hot or iced, as well as a good espresso martini mixer. A-Rob, Allen Robinson, who's coming up as one of our guests on this episode, is a big-time coffee drinker. Got to get him some Estate 98. And Sal Loretta for Men, always getting me looking right for my arrivals at these games, as well as for big events like the Super Bowl and NFL Combine and owners meetings. Go to Sal Loretta for Men in Midland Park, New Jersey, in Bergen County. It's elite luxury menswear and tailoring. Tell them Pat sent you. And now, without further ado, on to our fun conversation with Benny Fowler and Allen Robinson II, talking free agency, a shared NFL Combine experience, and much more. All right, welcome back to our special episode, NFL Combine preview edition of Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. Benny Fowler, Super Bowl 50 champion, and another special guest, Allen Robinson II, back on the program, free agent, NFL wide receiver, a Pro Bowler, a star. Benny and Allen, of course, have a lot of shared experiences going back all the way throughout their careers. So I'm really looking forward to diving into all of this with you guys, and thanks so much for being here.
Absolutely, Pat. Appreciate you having us.
Yeah, so Allen, wanted to start off with, obviously, another big offseason here for you, year 12 coming up. What's the free agent kind of landscape look like? What's the ideal type of opportunity look like for you here? Where you could, in my opinion at least, I don't know what you're thinking, Benny, but you could really help one of these contenders out the way I see it.
Yeah, for me right now, honestly, it's just kind of, figuring out and seeing where things are at, as far as what next year looks like, for me, obviously it'll be going into year 12. My children. Well, my daughter is getting older. I just had another daughter. So, just trying to evaluate what that looks like,
Congrats.
So right now I'm still, making that decision, and just kind of, figuring out, what plan looks like for me next year, if I will be playing next year, and just kind of, that's how I'm approaching the spring. I'm still training to stand ready, but I still have a decision to make, over the next month or couple months or so.
Hey, Rob, man,
right.
You've been playing 12 years. Does the body feel like year 12? Because you're not moving like it. I mean, I seen, just saw the way you played this year, some of the catches that you've had this year. I think you had one of the best releases against San Francisco. I don't know if it was third or fourth quarter on a go route. I mean, just gave him a little bit of sauce right there at the line of scrimmage, and you caught a go route. But how does the body feel in year 12?
It honestly, it feels like year 12. And I say that to say, like, I still feel good, but I know I got some tread on these tires, but again, I feel solid though. I think the main thing for me last year was what kind of set me back just overall was when I broke my foot in LA. Foot injuries can be tough. I had the stress fracture in my foot, so that took a good amount of time to just kind of get back. I really didn't feel like I was back like myself until this past off season. And I feel like I had a good training camp, and my body started to feel a lot better. I started to feel more explosive. But again, I mean, even for us in Detroit, man, with the kind of practices that we would have, and it was put on the gas all season, So again, in year 12, the body does get wore down, but I'm feeling solid though.
Yeah. I mean, I know playing with Sean, I played for Sean Payton in 2020, so I know Dan Campbell took a little bit of that playbook, and yeah, they practice hard. I mean,
Practice hard,
how many
man.
plays? Yeah, it's
no joke.
game like all the
It's
time.
no joke. And we I mean, shoot, having uppers and stuff on week 17, week 18, so for it was a grind, man. We really were grinding out there. Like I said before, man, when you put it all in one year like that, and everybody's full throttle, foot on the gas, 24/7, it does take a little bit more time, for your body to kind of recover at this stage of the game, but like I said before, I have a good approach to the off season. So my main thing is just more so, like I said before, being away from my daughter from that, for that period of time, at this age was a lot on her a little bit, with her just starting school and stuff like that, So, those are all things that I'm factoring in.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, a lot to factor in. What has it been like for you two observing each other, having known each other for so long, having so much success? Benny winning a championship, having a great career. A-Rob, with the Pro Bowl in Jacksonville, starring in Jacksonville, Chicago, having this long career. What's it been like for you guys watching each other thrive like that?
Man, it's been surreal, and to be honest, it's actually funny because, we're just a couple, of a bigger group, that we've had the pleasures to kind of watch, over the years, so it's been special, like I said before, not just me and Benny, but there are other guys that we grew up with and came up with that we're pretty close with, whether that be the NBA, other NFL teams, man. So it's surreal, to see the work that we put in as young kids, and kind of starting that discipline and stuff like that at 5 and 6 years old, to be able to see it pay off has been bittersweet.
I think it's been incredible. I second what Alan is saying. Number one, shout out to our parents. Our parents gave us a great foundation, and our parents really started this. So when I think about my dad, Alan's dad, shout out to Lee Bailey. There's a group of dads that got us all together. We start with grasshopper basketball, and then we go into different sports, track, football. Shout out to the Southfield Lathrop Falcons. Yeah. That's the football team that Alan and I played with. Wow. And then shout out to, people like my brother, Lee Bailey, Devin Marble, Amir Williams. These are all people, Shane Phillips. These are all people that small group of people that all went to play major college basketball or college football. And it's incredible to see. Number one, it was incredible to see. Alan was the youngest out of all of that group. And Alan is the one who played and who has played the longest. Also, shout out to Deion Sims and was it the East Side, West Side Cubs or
West Side.
So Deion Sims. But you think about that incredible group of people. Alan's the one who played the longest, and he was the youngest, and has continued to play and just represent, number one, the city of Detroit, but then also just the way he's played. I mean, Jacksonville, Pro Bowl years, the things that he did in Chicago. Chicago, it was crazy to see. Allen and I were teammates just for training camp, and Deion Sanders was there as well. But like, three people who grew up together, all playing on the same NFL team. And then Allen, continues to do incredible things. But hey, Rob, I would love to know, just, piggybacking off of Pat, what was it like playing at home this year and playing with the family there?
It was incredible. It was incredible for a number of reasons. Just based on me having the experience of playing in Ford Field for like state championships and league championships, having the experience of growing up in Detroit and seeing Detroit go through a lot of lulls when it came to the Detroit Lions, and then to actually be on the Lions in the year that I'm on the Lions, we have a franchise, record-setting year. It was surreal and incredible. I always said, throughout my career, I thought I would play for Detroit. I never knew when. I thought whenever it was, the timing would be right, and sure enough, it was this year. We win 15 games. It was a pretty incredible year.
What's it like with Ben Johnson, those plays that are being called? Is it as crazy when you guys are installing them and practicing them in practice? What's it like playing for a guy like that? I think actually that is where I have you going in free agency. I think you get one more year and you go back to Chicago. I could see that happening, just based off of a veteran presence. A veteran presence. They need a veteran presence in the locker room, somebody who knows and understands how to win, and can go in there, who understands the playbook. So I got you going back to Chicago.
Playing with Ben, man, is it's an experience, and I say that because from your playbook and so on and so forth, man, you're ready for each and every situation, man. It was never a time in the game that I didn't feel prepared, that I didn't feel ready. Hold on one second. My daughter is.
No problem. All good. All good. Life doesn't get in the way. Life just happens. It's all good.
Well, my youngest, she's 5 months old, so she's teething now, and she's going through it some days. But playing for Ben, man, every situation we felt prepared for, man. Whether if that was calling blitz zero checks with play alerts if it's not blitz zero, with some man or zone adjustments and things like that, man. Every time you get to the line of scrimmage, man, you were ready and prepared.
Hey, Rob, was how crazy kind of his creative play calls got, especially in the red zone? Did that ever become a thing where it was like, wait a second, like we can't pull that out, we can't throw a pass to the right tackle, that's too wild? Or were you guys cooking on all cylinders so much it became like one of the more exciting parts of every week was like, what's Ben going to do this week type thing?
And let me know if this gets too loud in the background, but it actually became, man, once we got rolling, it became what Ben was going to pull out this week. It was an interview he had about maybe, I would say, a third of the way through the season, and he was saying that how the well ran deep with those kind of plays, and sure enough, man, it was week 17, I believe, we hit the 49ers on a 3rd and long with a hook and ladder for like a 40-yard touchdown, which again, teams don't, what I'm saying? Like people don't do that. What I'm saying? In the wild card game, I think Jameson had a 50 or 60-yard touchdown off of a reverse, and to see plays like that score touchdowns and come alive, man, it's not many teams doing that. Teams are hoping to maybe hit a reverse and get a first down, whether if that's 8 to 10 yards or, teams aren't even calling hook and ladders in the situations that we've called them in this year, and for the most part, I mean, when I say all of them have hit, I mean touchdowns. Arizona hook and ladder touchdown, 49ers hook and ladder touchdown. We had the stumble bumble against Chicago. Watching film, we saw how their defenders just kind of avoided all their responsibilities when they saw the ball on the ground for a fumble. So we kind of dialed that up with the fake fumble and threw the touchdown to Laporta. So I mean, when you're clicking like we were offensively this year, man, the belief that you have in your teammates, the belief that's there for the coaches, the belief that's there in ourselves and each other, man, you could really call anything, at that point, and we thought it could get done. Unfortunately, we came up just a couple plays short, but, that's the kind of trend we were on all season was, just the belief amongst the collective, anything could be called.
Tell me what it was like just being in that receiver room. I think that was the most complete receiver room to finish off the year. I would have compared you guys to probably San Francisco at the beginning of the season, just based off of the accumulation of talent when San Francisco was healthy with Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Pearsall, that type of receiver room. I think you guys had a similar type of receiver room, a little bit deeper in terms of route runners. You got Jameson Williams, who I think is the modern day Deshaun Jackson. Amon Ra can do anything in the slot. Incredible route runner. My boy Khalif, you, and then Timmy Patrick, who I played with in Denver. I mean, you somebody who's big, can go across the middle. You, in terms of intermediate routes, releases at the line. Khalif, all things, special teams and gadgets. But talk a little bit about the receiver room and what the dynamic was like.
Man, our receiver room, man, was deep. I mean, even we had guys like Tom Kennedy who really didn't play that much, but still he played for us. He was on practice squad for a lot of the year. He was number 6. We had Donovan Peoples-Jones. He was like the 7th receiver. He could have played as well. We had, our receiver room was the deepest room I've ever been on, just as far as 1 through 8. We had guys step in and fill in all year. And I think that when you look at that, man, again, it's special. And like I said before, man, it really goes to show why our regular season record was kind of what it was because, we were deep at those positions. When you have a person like Jameson who had to serve a suspension, you have guys to come in and fill in. When you have Khalif who has to miss 4 games, you have guys, So, again, it's only one football. But I think the main thing was that we all came in and knew the job that we had to do and the roles that we had to play. And when we were filling in, and those roles would increase sometimes, they would decrease sometimes, but everybody stayed ready. And I think that was a true blessing and essence of our room was, man, everybody each and every day competed, but we was also there for each other in whatever way we needed to be.
Love it.
What a season there in Detroit. So as we introduced this interview, we talked about your guys' shared experience growing up together. I really think it's fascinating that as we sit here, as I prepare to fly to Indianapolis, we have the week of the NFL Combine that you guys got to share that experience together. Wanted to talk a little bit about that. And my initial question actually kind of precedes it a little bit. How interesting was it for both of you growing up as elite basketball players to then suddenly become like NFL prospects and thrive as NFL players going into that process? Because, we had at St. Mary's and Detroit Country Day, like you guys showing out on the basketball court. And now here you are, 3-4 years later, going to the NFL Combine. Was that like an interesting kind of shift in where your athletic prowess started and then where it ended up professionally?
Well, I think like Benny kind of said earlier, I think our parents and stuff really. Hold on one second.
All good, Alan. All good. Man, dad of the year, multitasking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's go with the champion's hat on. It doesn't get better than that.
But I think the biggest thing for me at least was, our parents, like Benny said, always, athleticism and stuff like that was always something that was at the forefront of what we did, whether that was practice, working out, so on and so forth. So by us growing up playing football as well, I think that we developed the tools and skills to be able to do that. I know that, I tell everybody I spent thousands of more hours in the gym playing basketball than I did on the field playing football. But I think, so much of those experiences, prepared me physically, athletically, to be able to be in the situation that we were in.
I was never to the caliber of Allen's professional career and who he was. But if you look at our games in similar fashion, Allen and I were really good at the line of scrimmage, and that's all basketball moves. It's in and out cross, it's a crossover move, it's a hop split, inside, outside. So that's just kind of how we play. And I think a lot of that comes to basketball and us having an open mind to like, okay, where can we go for, at least for me, where can I go play in front of the most people? Basketball, smaller for me, smaller D1 schools. And then you go to Michigan State, you can play in front of 80,000 people. It's better. Allen at Penn State playing in front of 110,000 people. We like the bright lights and we're playing receiver. So when I think about that's kind of, how our mindset shifted. It's like, where can we have the biggest bang for our buck? So we went to major Big Ten universities, but going back to the combine and our combine prep, we trained at Performance Compound in Tampa with Yo Murphy. And in our receiver group, it was me, Allen, Sammy Watkins, Bruce Ellington. I'm trying to think of who else. DeAnthony Thomas came down for a couple workouts, but incredibly competitive. And everybody had a little bit different piece to their game. Sammy was obviously a first-round pick. Allen becomes a second-round pick. I think maybe Bruce Ellington, maybe third or fourth. But Bruce was also another basketball player who played at South Carolina. So, competitive in terms of lifting, running routes. My combine experience, I did not enjoy the combine at all. There was nothing about it that I enjoyed besides the fact that I got invited. I mean, from the medical, the wake up early, the piss test is at 3:30 in the morning. The Cybex. Al, do you remember the Cybex?
Yeah, listen, it's actually funny because I don't know if you know this, but like the combine is way different now. But I'll let you finish, and then we can kind of talk about how the combine has changed from like then to now.
Yes, the Cybex test, which is this quad test that they have you, and you max out on this quad machine exercise. You're super sore. I made the biggest mistake of the combine by getting a deep tissue massage the night before the 40, not knowing how my body would recover. So I felt bruised when I was out there running the 40. But if I think about the combine, didn't enjoy the experience, but love the fact that I got invited. But then you get a chance to see all the incredible players. And it's like, wow, I am one of 256 people in the world who are here right now for an NFL team to see. And then you try to put on that show. But it was incredible. I mean, up until maybe I forgot what draft it was, we had the deepest receiver draft of all time, with Allen Robinson, Cody, Sammy Watkins, Mike Evans, Odell, Bruce Ellington. I mean, all these incredible guys. So that's what I remember most about the combine is like all these incredible receivers that I am now competing against to try to get a spot into the league.
Alan, you were only 20 years old, I think, when you went to the combine, right? I mean, you guys were both young, but you were only 20. That must have been just an wide-eyed experience for you.
Yeah, I mean, that whole kind of process was pretty wide-eyed for me, just in the sense of, being 20 years old. I was still 20 when I got drafted. So when I got drafted on draft day, I couldn't legally drink. Again, with just, for me, it was all kind of surreal just being, at that point.
Yeah.
Al, what's the combine like now?
So now at the combine, it's fans. It's in the evening. Like it's a totally different atmosphere of everything. Like when we were at the combine, you run the 40 UD or drills, you could hear a pin drop. Now it's fans there, they're cheering. It's just a totally different experience of even as far as like the amount of free time and stuff that I feel like people have. Like I've gone there now a couple years doing some media and stuff, and just for us, I never remember having more than maybe 15 minutes throughout the course of a day to be able to do anything. It was some days where I wouldn't eat until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I'm just able to squeeze in some food just based on how the structure of it was. But it's a little bit different now, as it comes to just like meetings and how things are structured.
It's all a production.
Were you guys nervous going there? Did you get like an original Pancake House meal like before you flew out? Like what did it look like?
We were dialed in with diet, no original Pancake House.
But obviously in situations like that, the nerves weren't high just because you're meeting with teams and things like that. But I will say that getting to the workout day for me, I was satisfied, very much satisfied with everything I did. I could have improved my 40 a little bit. I wasn't really a track person, so it took me a little bit to kind of learn starts and stuff like that. I honestly feel like probably in my third year in the league, I would have ran a faster 40 than I did at the combine. But just from training with professional coaches, now for a few years and stuff like that. So for me, just kind of getting the training, I did well at everything that was just kind of normal to me, vertical, 3-cone, L drill and stuff like that, So again, it's fun when you finally got to the point to be able to perform. Throughout the course of the week, though, you're going through mental testing. When I say mental testing, meaning actual physical, like written tests. You're going through meetings with teams, going through that whole evaluation phase. Like Benny said, you're doing some other physical things, so you're also trying to find time to meet with Nike and meet with Adidas and see if you can, just kind of seeing where all those things were at, So the combine, man, it was like Benny said, it was an experience that I remember, but it was a lot, drug tests at 3 a.m. You want to make sure that you were first in the line. If I could do it again, I would have made sure I was last in the line and just woke up at like 6:45 and took the test last instead of trying to be first. So it was a lot of little things in there, that could have been different.
Well, you guys mentioned how it's different with like the workouts happening now under the bright lights at night and with fans. You think that's a better thing for the athletes now to like have some fans around? You can't hear a pin drop. There's a little bit more like emotion and atmosphere, and it's like in prime time. Or did you prefer it how you did it, kind of a private workout type style?
Being there, the times that I have with the fans, I think this was the last year I was there, and the fans were there. I think it knocked a lot of the edge off, meaning that like all you heard was a person saying what number you were, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like other than that, it was dead silent. And just again, that's no atmosphere that guys really perform in general, whether that's working out in the gym, whether that's at practice, whatever the case may be. That's not a standard atmosphere for most athletes.
I think, I piggyback what Alan is saying. We play in front of fans. We play in high situation environments where it is loud, it is noisy, there are people. So I think the more you can bring in game-like settings where there is fans and there is a little bit of distraction, you can see how these guys continue to focus. So I think either way it works, but if you put more stimulus into it, that's more game-like. So I agree with Alan in terms of where it is going and the media production, because at the end of the day, every game in the NFL is on TV and in front of people.
Right. And Benny, you mentioned that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, even the route tree that the receivers are running has changed a little bit differently than when we were there. We didn't do any slot routes. I don't believe.
No,
they do some spots and stuff now. For us it was all like outside, pretty simple. So now it's a little bit more versatile and catering to more guys' abilities as far as what they have and kind of coming into the league where you can run some slot routes, you can run some outside routes.
Love it.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like such an obvious thing that you should have every receiver do and enable you guys to show your skill sets. It's weird that it took a while for that to happen.
NFL is very archaic.
Yeah, you're not kidding. Benny, you mentioned you didn't love the whole process. Question for both of you, but you hear about, sometimes there's odd questions asked in these team meetings. Some people, they become like great football conversations. Other time, it's kind of like you're looking at your watch like, hey, when's the next one? I got to get out of here. This is awkward. How many of the teams that you guys met with in person, when you went into the booths or the boxes or wherever it was, you could tell me kind of like where it was, what it looked like. How many of them did it feel like we're trying to get you to do something wrong versus they were just trying to figure out who you were and get to know you?
I would say 50-50. I would say 50-50. It was some meetings I left out. I'm like, I don't even understand why they brought me here. Whether if that was a team putting on my low lights from the season, just and we're just sitting there flipping through those and watching me on the backside of runs, not blocking anybody, stuff like that, Which actually, shout out to Tom Coughlin. That's who that was. Tom Coughlin was just asking me like, what here? It was probably like 3 to 5 minute low light of me just kind of loafing on different plays.
Wow.
Did you tell him, hey man, I'm Big Ten Receiver of the Year back to back?
Well, it's funny because what he was saying, he was like, I've talked to your coach. He said you're a hard worker and stuff like that, but I don't see that. So he was just kind of just going through it, and stuff like that. So, which some of it was, we ran some no huddle in college and stuff like that. So we were getting signals from the sideline. We ran some RPO stuff. So, when it came to run game, I wasn't totally fully responsible for certain run fits. But, it was more meetings like that. But there were also good meetings. Actually, I had a great meeting with Jacksonville. I had no idea that they would draft me based on where their picks were at. They had 2 picks at the top of the round, so but ironically they ended up trading back into the second round and drafting me, so it was about 50-50.
What do you remember about the Jacksonville interview?
It was a very when I say warm, it felt like they wanted to meet with me. You know, the question that was being asked, just kind of how the overall vibe was in that room. High-spirited coaches. Coach Bradley, you know, is a person I've learned so much from. He was my first head coach at NFL. Even in that meeting, you know, I left that meeting, I was like, wow, man, Jacksonville they have a great staff, you know, just a staff that, you know, I feel I will be comfortable and be able to go there and thrive. And sure enough, that's who drafted me.
Love it. I didn't have any interviews in the actual rooms because I was going to be a later round pick. So I just remember the big room where they're interviewing all the different people, and they asked me, you know, things like how many things can you do with this paper clip, or asked me about some stuff at Michigan State. But I didn't get too many hard questions. I never got too many hard questions. I did one private workout with the Patriots, and that's when they drilled into some of the things of how can I pick up the plays, you know, if we call these types of plays, you know, what does this look like? So that's kind of what I remember about, you know, that process.
Benny, was that at the train station back then, or where did they do that kind of huge?
Train station. Yeah, train station.
Yeah, no, fascinating logistics. I am laughing, dying over here so Allen Robinson coming out of Penn State his final season, 97 catches, 1,432 yards, and 6 touchdowns, and Tom Coughlin showing him his lowlights.
Full lowlights. It wasn't one highlight season. All low. backside of run plays.
I'd be curious to see.
That's funny.
Coaches like that who do things like that, and then their success year after year. Now, obviously, Tom Coughlin has won Super Bowls and things like that, but the interview process, and if you want to really get to know a prospect, why would you spend time on those types of things? Those are types of things that you can actually correct when that person gets into your building. So I'd be curious to see what the interviews are like with the Kansas City Chiefs, what they're like with when Bill Belichick was there, or what they're like with Dan Campbell now. Guys who have created incredible cultures, but who know they can coach things like that. They can coach things out of that. Because if we look at Allen's 11-year career so far, easily a great blocker, and obviously everything that he did at Penn State translated over into the NFL.
Right, for sure. Also, like, I think, you know, to Allen's point, as saying like it was all low lights, it's kind of like you can challenge somebody like Benny and I could each challenge Allen with the same type of question. But if I sound like I'm coming from a place where I'm trying to embarrass you, whereas Benny comes from a place where he's trying to get an answer, right? Mm-hmm. And just having a conversation, like as a player being coached, you're going to respond to those types of coaching 2 different ways, even though it's a very similar question, depending on where you know the person's coming from, right? Yeah. So that's what I think too. That's what, like, when you were talking earlier about like how hard the Rams were practicing at the end of the season, or how hard Detroit practices, that kind of thing. There are some programs where they're driving guys into the ground and everyone's looking around like, what's going on here? Like, they don't value players or this and that. But there are programs who practice hard, but it's to a purpose, right? And so you're not questioning it because you know, like, this is helping us, right?
Yeah, and again, man, winning helps all, you know. But for me, even in those situations, you know, I feel like I would prep for those situations since I was younger. You know, no disrespect to any coaches in the NFL or anything, but I feel like all my toughest coaches were when I was like in youth. So I was much prepared for that, you know, for the question asking, you know, for whatever kind of responsibilities.
Shout out to Coach LaRue.
Yeah, shout out to, man, I say this all the time, man. Shout out to all my coaches. You know, I was able to take so much from my coaches from age 5 to 17, to whereas, you know, once I got to college and once I got to the next level, you know, I never had a problem being coach. You know, I understood what coaching was, what hard coaching looked like. You know, there would be times, whether that's basketball practice or not, we would have just full straight conditioning practices, you know, practices where you don't touch the basketball, you know. And with football, you know, if somebody's unaccountable, undisciplined, whether that's playing football under the bleachers after you played your game, and you were not supposed to do that in Little League from our coaches, like they wanted you to watch games or go home. So if it was a group of guys caught playing just pick up football under the bleachers, you were going to pay for it that next week, you know. So yeah, it was a fair condition. And so, you know, for me, being able to have those hard coaches when I was younger prepared me a lot for, once I got to the combine, being in front of different coaches and stuff like that. It didn't really phase me as far as getting me out of character. I also think that that's something that coaches do. They want to evaluate players' characters, because sometimes you may not have another meeting throughout the course of the draft process, so they want to be able to kind of, pick and poke to see, what makes guys tick. Do guys get frustrated? How do guys respond to criticism? How guys respond when they are deemed not being held accountable, and so on and so forth. So for me, I've been able to keep a wide-eyed view and kind of understand, where coaches are coming from. Because at the end of the day, coaches coach, and that's how I treat it. They're not your friend, they're not your buddy. They're your coach. They're meant to get something out of you.
Al, I got a question for you in terms of just your time with the Rams. You signed with the Rams out of free agency. What was it like playing with Stafford, number one, and then also under McVay? And how do you compare McVay to Ben Johnson?
Playing with Stafford was incredible, man. Unfortunately, for us, we were all kind of banged up that year. So kind of going into OTAs, he had an elbow issue throughout OTAs and training camp. So we didn't get a ton of reps, But again, I mean, the Rams and the games that I played, it was one of my more efficient years with the opportunities that I had. And also playing for McVay, it's a little bit different coaching style, man. When I say a little bit different, meaning that the culture of the way, and again, this was a few years ago, so the game and calls and stuff do develop, but the approach and the schematics of it is, man, Detroit, we just had such an aggressive approach, so when it came to play calling, there aren't many. When I say trick plays, there aren't many gadget plays that the Rams have, other than maybe a screen or for the most part, maybe a jet sweep, but again, that's all based on numbers. That's all based on, pass rushers having their hand in the ground or being standing up. But when it comes to, just the overall schematic, when it came to Ben Johnson, man, it's like, if we're watching film, man, and you got a corner on the backside of a player or something like that who gets lulled to sleep for whatever reason, man, he's going to have to be held accountable at some point in time in that game. So everybody on defense, eyes are going to be tested, responsibilities are going to be tested, and just the way that, they approach the game. But, again, I did learn a lot of football in LA, and I think for me, each and every year that I've played in the league, I became a better student of the game, and I've learned a lot more, and I've had the blessing and pleasures to play for Sean McVay, to play for Coach Tomlin, to play for, Ben Johnson and Coach Campbell, so I've had the pleasure to play.
Nagy too.
Coach Nagy, yeah, I've been able to play, for some good coaches, man. And again, being able to take a lot from those guys. But, they have a different coaching style. But I do also think that, Coach McVay was a big innovator, when it comes to just the style of offense that he runs. Whether if that's, getting to the line of scrimmage fast, speed, breaking. There are a lot of things just over the years, even when I was, in Chicago and stuff, we would see different things that the Rams would do and try to emulate them, and that was years ago, So, I mean, McVay has been doing this thing and has had to kind of stay on top of that hill as a person who's kind of been a trailblazer, if you will, for a certain style of offense, so to be able to see him kind of still be on top of that hill and be able to get production out of his offensive groups, with a aging skill group, being able to bring some new pieces in there like Puka Nacua to have success and so on and so forth. I think that's a true, testament to, just the great coach that he is.
Benny, I'm glad you brought up Stafford, because as I prepare to fly to the NFL Combine, the latest on the Stafford situation is, he's looking for his contract to kind of reflect where he stands in the league, which can't blame him for that. And there's been talks, rumors, noise. Could the Rams end up trading him, getting a haul back? As Alan mentioned, they have started turning over the roster with some elite young talent. Then again, Matt had them almost one play away, essentially, from beating the eventual Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. The word is that Stafford's agent and the Rams are going to be meeting in Indianapolis this week to try to hammer out an extension or a reworked contract. I would put the question to both of you guys, though, Alan and Benny. What do you think should and will happen in this scenario? Are Stafford and the Rams, would they be unwise to part ways? Or do you feel like maybe it has run its course and a team like the Giants, who are absolutely desperate for a quarterback at this point, with Daniel Jones now in Minnesota, Drew Lock leaving in free agency, only Tommy DeVito on the roster, that they should just mortgage the farm and bring in a guy like Stafford to change everything?
Two things. Well, for the first one, to answer your question with the Rams, I think in a lot of situations, sometimes things run its course, and I think in professional sports, you always kind of want to be on the forefront of that. You never want to be on the back end of something running its course, because then you're trying to play catch up to whatever the situation may be. Obviously, you have some people who may jump the gun early, like the Dallas Mavericks, and trade Luka Doncic, but that's a whole other conversation. And as far as the Giants, I think the Giants they have the ability to change a lot this year to put themselves in a great position, whether that's being able to acquire a quarterback like Matt Stafford, or maybe acquire another veteran in free agency, because then in the draft, you can just focus on putting talent around those guys, and I think already having somebody like Malik Neighbors, I think being able to add a player or two, on defense in the secondary, another weapon, I think them getting that quarterback piece, I think before the draft will do a lot more for them than trying to acquire that piece, during the draft. Because, once you even acquire that piece during the draft, I feel like trading up in that situation may cost you a lot more than trading for a vet, although obviously you have a shorter time span with that veteran quarterback. But I think always having a veteran quarterback, man, makes you a little bit more flexible. It opens things up for everybody. Like I said before, playing with a veteran quarterback like Jared Goff this year compared to being in Pittsburgh with a young group of guys, from an offensive scheme, as far as what you can get to, what this person has seen, how they bring players along. Stafford's a guy, when he gets in the huddle, man, everybody knows what they're doing. If somebody looks a little confused or something, Stafford's like, hey, you got a dagger. You got a dagger +2. He knows what everybody's doing. And when you have that, it changes the dynamic of the game, rather than having a young group of players who are already trying to learn, along with now a young quarterback who's trying to learn as well, because we see that sometimes, and most times, it takes time. Everybody doesn't get a Jaden Daniels, and those things are happen very frequently for a guy to just be able to step in and have the kind of season that he had. 9 times out of 10, typically it's some growing pain. And I feel like for the Giants, they want to be in a situation to win. I think the veteran will be the right play, and there should be a few veterans on the market come this March.
I think that New York should definitely make a play for a veteran. I don't think they should trade the number 3 overall pick, but I think you can get a Kirk Cousins or, some type of quarterback like that. But if I'm the Rams, I'm not getting rid of Stafford at all. We're 1 game away from the NFC Championship. Stafford is elite in terms of this. Him and McVay have great rapport. He knows the offense. Does Stafford at this age want to go to a different place, learn a new offense, learn new people? New York, if he still comes to New York, they still can't protect him. And Stafford's not mobile at all. So Stafford, let's give him his money. He's won a championship. He brought a championship here. Let's pay him his $40 million a year. But I'm not signing him to a 4-year extension. I'm going to give him 2 years. I'm just going to guarantee it all. He's got 2 more years left. I think 2 more great years left. And let's continue to build like that. Sean McVay is an incredible coach, but does he really actually want to build with a young quarterback right now? He's a very impatient person. This is somebody they were talking about 2 years ago, or right after the Super Bowl. They talking about him retiring. And now I think that would speed up retirement. He goes straight into TV if he's got to deal with a young quarterback who can't pick up his offense. So I think Rams are always in win now mode. They don't believe in draft picks. I think they trade their first round pick and bring back or try to get some veterans, So that's kind of how I see it. But yeah, I think New York definitely needs a quarterback. I think they need a young quarterback and a bridge quarterback in between. They need a Sam Darnold type situation. I don't think Sam can actually handle New York, so it's not him. But I think that's the type of way they should go. But Stafford can't go to New York. They can't protect him. He can't move. And, he is injury prone. And we saw that in Detroit, and we've seen that in LA.
And also, to be honest, I think a lot of vet quarterbacks like playing indoors when they get to the part in time in their career. I think it just adds a little bit to them, being able to play inside majority of the time and not have to go through, the winters of playing outside. So that's also a factor as well.
No, very insightful. Yeah, I can tell you guys, and I know the name's been bounced around, but if Stafford for some reason ends up leaving the Rams, Aaron Rodgers is gunning for that Rams opportunity if
Yeah,
Stafford
yeah,
leaves. He
which is
wants that. Devontae Adams, bring him with him. Maybe Aaron Jones too, over from Minnesota.
yeah, I think that's very interesting. I think that's what makes this dynamic a little bit different than other case and scenarios is that knowing that a person like Aaron Rodgers would have interest in going to the Rams if Stafford wasn't there, I think, helps the Rams sleep just a little bit better at night where it's like, hey, if we don't get this done, we do have a legitimate job. We do have a legitimate chance in getting Aaron Rodgers. I want to say Matt LaFleur's brother is over there. I think he's on the
Right.
staff. So so Aaron Rodgers kind of has some familiarity with, maybe some terminology or something like that. He's also from California, so I think there are things in play that could make that, very much possible. And like I said before, I think that gives the Rams just a few options, to whereas, okay, they could go from a vet to a vet, and not have to go through a young quarterback right now. And I think if it's anybody who could add, a few more years, I don't know how many more on to Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, did he go out?
Hey, yeah, that was Rodgers' camp, like pulling the plug. They weren't feeling it. All right, and I'd be remiss if I did not bring up Penn State's own Saquon Barkley, also, of course, former Giants teammate of Benny's, having this incredible season and capping it off with a Super Bowl victory, was in the MVP conversation. Alan, let's start with you. How big is that for the Nittany Lion Nation? And what was it like just watching a player like him have this kind of season?
Man, it was cool. Him being a Penn State brother of mine. Um, Also with seeing him go through some of the things that he's gone through in his career. I think that, when you have to handle adversity early in your career, it just makes you that much better. And I think that we saw that in Saquon. We saw him go from one situation to another, a situation that was, catered to him and so on and so forth. And he thrived, so it was special to see. And it's also really nice to see, the running back market, be revitalized a little bit and having some of these older backs and just running backs in general, you know, really impact the game more, which I think is due to a lot of teams playing a lot more too high safety. But that's a whole nother conversation. How do you feel about that, Pat? About seeing a person with the Giants, who they had the opportunity to sign back. How does that how well does that sit with a city or with a team? Seeing somebody who may not have been brought back, and them wanting to be back, and then arguably being the person who should have won MVP. Because in my opinion, I would have given it to Saquon. Don't get me wrong. I think Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen both had a heck of a year, but I think that when you see the impact that Saquon Barkley had on the Philadelphia Eagles all year, to me, he was the most valuable player. I think that he changed. We went from hearing about the Philadelphia Eagles, coaching things, quarterback. You heard so many things about, just Philly and it being up in the air, and then you implement Saquon Barkley, and sure enough, X amount of months later, they're holding up the Lombardi.
Yeah, no. Oh, flipping the script. All right, question to me. So you guys know this better than I do, but I was able to identify this by talking to players throughout this. So the fan base, of course, extremely frustrated by it. There's some people who don't want to talk about it anymore because it's too painful. There's other people who recognize what we do, which is the fact that, like, when people say he wouldn't have had the same success in New York anyway, that's just an indictment of the Giants' inability to build the team around him and utilize him properly compared to the Eagles. It's not like the Eagles had the same O-line or players or roster that they had, 2-3 years ago when they were in the Super Bowl. I mean, they've retooled their offensive line, their line of scrimmage, the defensive line. They lost Kelsey and Fletcher Cox, replaced them with Cam Jurgens and Jalen Carter, who was an absolute force. So there's that. But the biggest thing I noticed, Alan and Benny, was the Giants players would talk about, not only was Saquon one of our best players, our best player, but he was a leader. He was somebody that people followed in their locker room, and he kind of kept it all together. And the Giants not valuing him as a player and a person didn't set a really good or healthy precedent for the players in the locker room, because now the Giants players are looking around saying, if they don't value this type of person here, what do we value? And that was my main takeaway as the Giants even turn their focus to how do they build things. Like when you brought up Stafford and a veteran quarterback, for example, just to use a name, they don't have enough leadership. They don't have that face of franchise that everybody says, we're going to get behind you and follow me. I'm going to take you guys there. The Giants don't have that player or person on their roster right now. So I just feel like they put themselves in a dangerous place with Joe Schoen saying, either I don't value this type of leader and player, or I don't even recognize what his value really is to the locker room.
Yeah. And, I think that to me, being around winning teams, that's the most valuable thing. I think that, the common denominator of teams who are winning, yeah, you may have some situations where you have frustrated players, whether that's A.J. Brown or whatever the case may be. But when you have players who are pushing the tide and rowing the boat in the right way, constantly, and they're all going in the same direction, it's it's a lot easier to handle any kind of adversity that comes throughout the course of the season. Granted, for us in Detroit, we didn't have a ton of adversity to handle, but I can say that each and every day, everybody had the same goal in mind. Collectively, like there wasn't many people going in the opposite direction, if anyone at all. It just wasn't any space from that, and everybody that they brought in from a personality standpoint, whether that's Tim Patrick coming over from Denver, whether that's me coming over, from being released from the Giants, we all were guys who could come in and fit in and had the personality types that was going to make sure that if everybody's pushing the boat this way, we're going to be doing the same thing. And I think when you have that, that's how you create winning cultures.
Absolutely. I think seeing Saquon's impact, Pat, I said it on this show at the beginning of the season that he was going to have Penn State-like numbers, and that's because I played with him, and I know his work ethic, number one, and I know how valuable he is. There are certain people in the NFL that you play with where you can compete with them because you have similar skill sets. And then there are some people in the NFL that you see, and there's nothing that you can do because they have a God-given ability. And Saquon is one of those things where you watch him practice and you see him do things on the field, and you're like, okay, it doesn't matter how much I lift or how much I run, that's just something that he can do. And then you see him jump over somebody backwards. That's something that was a natural thing. Le'Veon Bell was like that at Michigan State, and then he got to Pittsburgh, where he had a unique ability, and it wasn't strength or speed. It was his vision to just how he played at Pittsburgh. Odell was like that. Von Miller was like that. Demaryius Thomas. These are all teammates of mine where you're like, okay, like DT's incredible and he does incredible things, but then he's also 6'4" and he 240. Well, all right, like it's just something that's different. So when you see Saquon have the success he had, it's just I think next year will be even better for him. Now, I'm not saying from a yardage standpoint, but from his impact, this is only first year in the offense. I think he'll have an even better year.
And that's the thing too, most great players like that continue to evolve, continue to develop. I think that when you have players like Saquon Barkley and such good players mentally and physically, they continue to get better. They're more so just fighting against staying healthy. I think that's, the number one goal for most premier athletes, at that level is. I don't think Saquon Barkley went into this season saying he wanted to win the rushing title or win the rushing record. I mean, he probably had a goal of just playing in every single game and thinking that if he does that, then he'll be able to have the impact that he had, and sure enough, he did. So like Benny said, I could definitely see him, getting better, becoming more of an impact, because again, players like that don't just impact the game. They impact other players around them playing the game as well.
Saquon, going into this year, they had that clip of him and Jalen Hurts of like asking about greatness or how do you see yourself? You hear Saquon asking Jalen Hurts. Saquon's confidence going into this next year is going to be insane because he's already done everything now. Now he'll play freer than he's ever played before. And you'll see even more incredible plays because now the pressure of the contract and did I make the right decision? I left the Giants. I'm going to a team that was just coming off the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and now I've won it. I was the best player on that team, and I was the difference maker. The amount of confidence that he will have going into this year is going to be insane. Jalen Hurts as well. I don't think Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback, but he's a top 10 quarterback for sure. And the way he played, the confidence level of these guys going into the next year with the same, I already saw Lane Johnson lifting weights, squatting on Instagram, and they just won 2 weeks ago. I know I was still partying at this time after I won. So the confidence level that these guys will have next year is going to be off through the roof.
Do we agree on this too? Like, one thing I noticed, so I was lucky enough to get into Saquon's kind of like private birthday party and celebration afterwards. He had, there was some NFL players there, some friends, family. I missed Odell and Shep. They were there. They had taken off. But one thing that hit me as I was there talking to him, talking to some of his people around him, friends and family, was I think what he did most impressively is he bet on himself and believed in himself when a lot, and I mean the majority of people, whether it was the area he was in northern New Jersey, the Giants franchise that it was losing, he never stopped believing what his value was, and he fought for it, and he took himself to the place he was in. Yes, the Eagles made the move. Yes, it had to do with the Giants also saying, you go somewhere else. We're not keeping you here any longer. I was just blown away in that moment, though, thinking about how much credit he deserves for kind of standing his ground when there were so many people around him saying, you're a running back, you're not worth it. You stutter step too often in the backfield, this and that. Because, I mean, guys, you hear noise, you have noise coming at you as pro athletes more than I do. But even in my profession, like, the noise on social media now is ridiculous. So, like, if you're a player who's going through a tough season, you get hurt, your production's not where it wants to be, people are calling you overpaid, whatever it is. I'm just astounded that he stood his ground and it turned out like this, because I feel like a lot of guys go the other way.
Why are you astounded? Have you ever watched a Saquon Barkley highlight tape, even when he was in New York? The shit that he was doing on those highlight tapes, other people can't do. So if he just watched 4 minutes of like, oh, okay, like I haven't seen anybody do that all year.
And not to mention, I think the biggest thing for Saquon is, and I would say, athletes in general, is when you put in the kind of work that Saquon Barkley puts into, it's very hard not to believe in yourself. He's the person who, even this past offseason, when it was early in the offseason, me, Saquon, and David Seals at the track, what I'm saying? We're the ones who are getting in the reps, getting in those, what I'm saying? When it's cold outside, we're at the track. When it's hot outside during the summer before camp, we're at the track, putting in those reps. And when you have the kind of work ethic that Saquon Barkley has, you don't train the way he trains and, do the things that he does to be great, to not believe in yourself. With the amount of time he has put in, the amount of time he has invested in himself and his health to be at his best, believing in yourself, it comes natural. That's why you do that. It's to believe in yourself.
Al, I got one last question for you, man. What would you tell your younger self, or just the younger people out there, how to play 11 years in the league and play consistently 11 years in the league?
What I tell a lot of my younger teammates is, and he's an older coach, but I had a coach when I was younger tell me this, and, each and every day, I tried to get better, tried to get a little bit better, and as cliche as that may sound, I didn't step into any practice or anything, just kind of like, all right, man, it's okay, what I want to get better at today, I got to figure something out, because in this league, you're getting better or you're getting worse. Sounds like a cliche, but if you're not improving upon things and deficiencies that you have, at some point in time, they're going to show. Like, I remember me and Pat, kind of talked earlier during training camp this year, and I feel like for me, each and every day, training camp got a little bit better, and that wasn't just by the chance of that happening. That's me watching the film, figuring out, okay, where do I feel deficient at? How do I need to get better? It's just a weight room thing that I need to start focusing on a little bit more. Is this a technique thing that I have to start focusing on a little bit more? It's being aware to your game and how to get better. Because I think a lot of guys, unfortunately, in this league, they don't have the awareness of their own personal game to figure out or see when they have deficiencies. You know, sometimes it may take a coach to tell somebody, but in this league, a lot of times, especially now, you don't have coaches who are coaching like that. You know, you have coaches who are coaching more so the schematics and where you need to be at and how you need to get there rather than deficiencies that you have in your own game. So for me, I've always been tapped into just trying to figure out, you know, where I need to get better at, whether that's at the line of scrimmage, at the top of the route. If that's, you know, me planting off the wrong foot in this, it's like, how does this cut feel, you know, and being able to have people around me, trainers and stuff like that, you know, that I can kind of, you know, bounce ideas off of. If it's, you know, me running a return route and my plant foot is a little bit more vertical than it needs to be, you know, it's very much specifics, you know, as how you're getting in and out of your break, where your foot is at, you know, the rhythm of routes, you know, it's a lot of different things. And for me, I've gotten better each and every year. But even the younger version of myself, I always want to try to stay in tune with that and with those little details, because for you as a player, like I said before, man, you can only kind of be your own advocate. You know your game, you know the direction you want to take your game, you know, so you have to hold yourself accountable to knowing that, you know, you can't help a coach, you know, get you from point A to point B. You know, they can just tell you that you have to go from point A to point B. Now, how you get there, you create your own roadmap and how, you know, the ways that you need to get there.
Love it, man. Appreciate you sharing that.
No problem.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Benny. Conversation with two great players and great people and professionals. Benny Fowler, Alan Robinson II. Thank you so much for talking ball here with Pat Leonard. Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
All right.
What a conversation. What a podcast here on Talking Ball with Pat Leonard, with Benny Fowler and Alan Robinson II. That was awesome insight into the Combine, into the current NFL, Matthew Stafford, Saquon Barkley, Aaron Rodgers. That Tom Coughlin story from the Combine was great. Obviously sheds light on the hard coaching and also the player process of going through the tough sledding of the NFL Combine and all there is to audition yourself to become an NFL player. Great insight, great analysis. Brought to you here on the Believe Network and on the YouTube channel, PL on NFL on Talking Ball with Pat Leonard, by MyBookie, which, of course, if it's March Madness coming up, you're going to want to download. Go to MyBookie right now. Get an account going before it's too late. Use that promo code PATSPICKS and get a 50% match on your first deposit up to $2,000 plus a $10 casino chip. So if you're going to want to win and bet smarter and win bigger, you want to do it at MyBookie, obviously, with our Super Bowl hits, almost a 55% win clip against the spread all NFL season in 2024. I'm not giving out losing picks here. We're making you money with MyBookie. Grateful to MyBookie's partnership and sponsorship throughout the season and into the spring. Also brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink here over my shoulder with the new packaging. It was a popular product at Super Bowl Media Radio Row, and it is a natural mushroom extract supplement that you can pour into your coffee, your water, your tea, whatever you want. Loaded with antioxidants, anti-inflammatory antioxidants, and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this supplement into any of your favorite drinks, like I put mine in my coffee, and immediately feel the difference. I personally feel like post-workout, like energy boost when I drink Boom. It also has the ability, the chaga mushroom, to reduce inflammation, lower cholesterol, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today and start feeling the difference with the code TalkingBall25. You see that on your screen, or that QR code there. Go scan it. Go to the subscribe and save option and use TalkingBall25 or that QR code and get 25% off your first order on subscribe and save. That's boomchaga.com. Also brought to you by Sal Loretta for Men, luxury menswear and tailoring in Bergen County, New Jersey. And Estate 98 Coffee, natural specialty coffee concentrate, 10 seconds to make a hot or iced coffee, and a great mixer for espresso martinis. Estate98.com/talkingball. Go get 80% off now.